video out of looking maybe for people that can help, that know a good attorney who will actually enter into a legal contract and not just give advice um, via website or on the phone or whatever, but somebody who will actually open a retainer agreement. Um, because there's a couple of people in the VA that are trying to help me with my complex medical issues. I mean, they're trying. I have to give credit to when people are trying, especially being all the electronic issues going on now. Now the bad elements in this, especially Saginaw VA. Um, Now, if they know how to use the new system, it's not a new system. It's just a different platform, a different GUI. But if they know how to use it better than others, now the malicious employees, they can really screw people over. They just got to learn the software better than the ones that don't know it well. But that being said, after all the talks with Detroit, I don't want to say all the talks, the couple of talks and the ton of email that was passed back and forth and nothing was accomplished. They're ignoring me now. I said, okay, maybe I can't work because of all my health issues. We just can't stabilize my health. There's so much going on. And some of the issues that I have, there's about 6 different issues that they actually agitate each other. Like GERD, when I use my asthma medication, it makes my GERD act up. And if my GERD, if your stomach acid is overactive, or maybe you eat a lot, or you eat the wrong things, or you eat before your medicine. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that can cause agitation there. And then it can agitate your asthma. And then you get that acid reflux, and then you get the mucus build up in your throat. Then you'll start having more aspiration and choking on stuff, etc., etc. And the same thing, be careful with the VA if they just diagnose you with general fatty liver disease or steatohepatitis instead of digging deeper, because I'm researching and first of all, I know I don't just have fatty liver because I've never had a high fat diet and I've never ate tons of sugars, not really, But anyway, mash. If you have mash for a long time, it can start to present like diabetes, or it can even cause diabetes, because mash, which is metabolic, metabolic something steatohepatitis. Metabolic, metabolic, I forget what the A stands for, but anyway, basically it's a metabolic problem that begins in your liver, which causes your liver to process insulin and glucose and fat wrongly. And the interesting thing is when those 3 elements, that's my glucometer right there, when those issues are messing up, because your liver is having a mash flare up, it will, over time, it will start to affect the pancreas, and it could cause you to be diabetic, or when blood tests are taken, you will present as a diabetic, but actually you're not, because it'll play with glucose being burned, it'll play with insulin resistance. I mean, the two together are it's bad to have both. And I think that my doctor's right to a point, except that I think this is MASH steatohepatitis and not just ordinary fatty liver disease, because it's affecting my metabolism. When you lose 40 pounds in about 6 weeks, that's a metabolic issue. Whether you're burning ketones or passing ketones or not, it's a metabolic issue. But I mean, that being said, I mean, it makes more sense. But anyway, some people, a few people are trying to help me with my medical issues and my supplies. Try to fix things that have happened in the past. And same with some people on Hot Bash, helping a little bit, to a certain degree. Um, but the Volk Rehab with the VA, whether it's people working in Saginaw, Flint, or Detroit, nobody's been any help to me. Um, Matter of fact, the ones in Detroit have just screwed with me for 5 months. And then when I, tell them, I'm like, okay, I have a new joint issue now, which, so maybe I should, you know, just take it easy for a while and try to stabilize my medical care and my medical issues, um, especially the service connected ones. And, and the claim that was canceled to get a bunch of those medical issues that are guaranteed to be service related, um, to get them taken care of, after they canceled the claim. Um, and then, we can revisit, VR&E and some kind of career change. VA is always looking for social workers, folks. Social workers and psychologists and nurses, they're in big demand. I mean, physicians too, but social workers, psychologists, and nurses, they need them very badly. Especially social workers, because they can work at the regular VA medical center and they can work at local vet centers. Um, but uh, but first I need to stabilize my medical care. But just besides the advice about MASH, push your doctor to see if you have MASH, because it's possible that sooner or later you'll have sugar problems too, and MASH and diabetes are intertwined. Some people it happens later, some people it happens earlier, but there's a statistical significance um, when they look at cases, especially veterans returning from Southeast Asia, of cases of MASH, and they're soon connected to type 2 diabetes or presenting as type 2 diabetes. MASH can be a great chameleon, making someone think that somebody has type 2 diabetes, but they don't. Or presenting as brittle diabetes, where your sugar goes up, down all the time. It's a clever chameleon. And there's a lot of us coming back from Southeast Asia with liver problems. You don't have to be, have a hooch next to a burn pit to get liver issues. It's in the air. A lot of people downplay people that are like went to Central Kuwait, like Arifjan, or Kuwait Naval Base, which actually Kuwait Naval Base says there's a lot of stuff there, but it's discounted. People or they will ignore Camp Aliyah Salim, without considering all the fuel burn off and the burn pits that are there. That's a Kuwaiti base. They're going to do whatever they want. Um, it's a lot of stuff is discounted. People say, "Oh, it's just Kuwait." No. And for 6 months, there was 300 oil well fires. That soot, tar, and poison is still in the sand. It doesn't just disappear. There's no regular rainfall, and when there's a dust storm, all it does is blow stuff around. That stuff is going to be in the sand for, I'm sure, a couple hundred years. Because the cleanup that they did was just to clean up the immediate danger. There's still poison in the sand in Kuwait. Kuwait is just as toxic as Central Iraq and Southern Iraq. But anyway, so there's a point. Some veterans. I know I'm not alone, but you feel like dealing with the financial side of being disabled vet, whether you're 20% or 100%, it just there's it's like a lot of times you're set up to fail. You know, they will they will take your blood and they will. I mean it's figurative. They take your blood and your tears, um, just to give you 20 or 30%, and by the time you're at 50 or 60 or 70%, then they're trying to push the mental health stuff, and then they're talking about fiduciaries and taking away weapons, and I mean that's what they're doing with me. That's my honest opinion. There's several key parties that are involved in my care as a veteran, and they want to take my weapon. They know that I'm a diehard Second Amendment supporter, and you know, trying to make an excuse. Well, he doesn't hunt. I don't hunt because people in Buena Vista keep destroying our cars. If I had a working car and we lived in a place, where I didn't have to worry if I bought a rifle to hunt with, somebody's going to break in and screw with the rifle like they did with my handguns, I would be hunting. And I would teach my daughter to hunt because great sacrifice is required for us to survive. And we should remember that every time we take a bite of food. The end place for this survival relationship, this economic relationship, is not at the grocery store. The end place is our dinner table and how it got there. People think, oh, they get to the grocery store, oh, out of sight, out of mind. Yeah, I got my beef, got my hamburger, my chicken, a fish. Out of sight, out of mind. No. That end result is not the grocery store, it's your dinner table when you're praying over it and remembering those creatures that died, so they sacrificed themselves so you would have food. Whether it is a buck walking in front of a scope or an arrow, or whether it is a bull that allowed the farmer to take them down, or whether it was a chicken that that walked and presented themselves in a particular place and time to be butchered. This is a sacrifice for our survival, and we should respect that and remember that, and I honor that. I would much rather hunt and butcher my own food with respect for those creatures than to just buy it at a grocery store. That's why I liked living in the bush, living in the mountains by the ocean when I was in Southeast Asia. We live real there. If we buy meat, we know the butchers, we know how they raise their animals. But, that being said, this video is about how when dealing with the VA, being a disabled vet, you're in poverty. Then you got vets who say, oh, yeah, you got to work, man, you got to work. Not realizing that, first of all, sometimes you shouldn't be working. And, the perspective I come from is if I'm going to work somewhere, I want a VA rubber stamp on it. That it's not going to hurt my health and it's not going to affect any of my benefits, especially medical. I mean, comp too, but especially medical. And I'm not going to put myself in a hospital. And so that being said, they put us through a lot of heck and they screw with us, and it's a big, there's a lot of hardship, just to get the medical care you deserve, and then comp, and people are always trying to go after the comp. I mean, the past 10 years, but especially the past couple years, I've seen more and more and more of agencies or even Congress trying to go after the comp. They're very hesitant and they take small steps to go after the medical, but they always go after the comp. Make it harder to get or try to take it away. And if you've been humiliated enough to the point where you're saying you're a disabled vet because you have issues, but you still have something to offer, and people are screwing with you offering, or they're screwing with you, trying to get medically stable so you can figure out what you can do, or they're trying to screw with you because you're limited what you can do, so you should go P&T. That's the problem. Or go PTD, or TDIU. It's understandable why there's so many veterans that this really gets to them, because you're living in poverty. I'm at the point now. That's where we are. We live in absolute poverty. And they blame me. They shame me when they canceled my claim. And then a lot of stuff. The only thorough thing they did was my allergies and my asthma. That's the only thorough thing they did. Because the allergies, well, I saw, a Michigan State professor is the one who made my medical record regarding my allergies, as well as a well-known laboratory that tested my blood. And then the asthma, well, they did a very thorough investigation, and by doing so many breathing tests. But the other stuff, there's a lot of stuff that's just glossed over and denied. Long health record of sinus infections they have records for almost 12 years. They still denied me, saying I don't have 3 eruptions a year, so I don't qualify. But when I have at least 1 or 2 a year, almost every year for 12 or 13 years, but it's not enough, because they're not deciding in good favor of the veteran. They're not. And high blood pressure, well, veterans, you may not know, but your high blood pressure now, if you're medicated, you're not being compensated anymore. If you were rated for high blood pressure, you're not going to get paid. They've already started that, taking away the comp for high blood pressure. They've already started. If your medication helps you, you will not be compensated. They're trying to backdoor all of this stuff they were talking about 3 months ago, but people don't realize it. They're trying with several medical issues. If treatment helps you, you won't be compensated. Or you won't be compensated at a higher level. It'll be a low level. I'm just sick of dealing with them. I'm sick of living in poverty, and I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of vets also out there sick of living in poverty. Some high-paid lawyer jerk or some claims examiner that they enjoy the power of their job more than they want to help a veteran. Look at them objectively, and they just deny. And we live in poverty. That's why you have veterans, trained to defuse explosives, or trained to track somebody in the jungle or the desert. They're mowing lawns or cleaning toilets. It's a shame on this country. It really is. People that are trained to use high-tech equipment to locate and decipher communications are working at jobs where they're filing papers or driving Uber. Uber is great for funny money, for fun money, not for feeding your family, because you'll struggle. So this video is just I need to go back to fight again all of this stuff, and whatever the next step is, I can't do it on my own. I tried with service officers in Saginaw at the VA. None of them want to help me. And a lot of my case, I can prepare some of this myself. Having a background in medicine, but without an attorney to fight these guys, I'm tired. I know that people are hoping that I get sick enough they can put me in a nursing home or a vet's home. That's pretty obvious. Um, but people would rather think anything negative or not waste their time with me because I'm a complex medical issue veteran. Um, so I need an attorney that knows doctors or NP nurse practitioners or PAs. So we can put this case together, and then I can try to get better a little bit and help other veterans. I can always help other veterans with their cases because of my background in medicine. Um, Not being a doctor, but having studied a lot of similar type stuff for a long time. I just chose because of finances. I was one of those kids that had my GI Bill. That's it. Um, for a bachelor's degree, pretty much my second bachelor's degree, pretty much. So I couldn't go into medicine. I stayed with force protection and intelligence and stuff like that, but can't do it now. Can't do this stuff with bad health. But a lot of my cases, like I said, I can prepare them myself. I just need it. I just need help. Somebody who knows how to do the lawyer portion and fight back. And then somebody who has, ND, MD, or NP, or PA behind their name. But I'm so tired of dealing with this. Getting screwed with for everything. Just so much. VRNE, I really don't have a good impression of them. The stuff that Google AI brings up about Detroit VRNE, yeah, I believe it. Um, they've not treated me well at all. And there's other voc rehab people involved, even who are PhDs, but they're not getting involved. Um, the VA has not been good to me for the most part. Somebody with so many issues who, served civilian and military. We're looking at between civilian and military about 12 years. But I'm just tired of being sick and tired of nobody giving a crap and people treating me like I'm freeloading when I signed up to serve more than once. And being kept in poverty, that's the biggest thing that I'm sick of. My daughters deserve better. There's a lot of us veterans that deserve better. And you know these national town halls, I think it would be great if more veterans were allowed to speak instead of the entire itinerary of these various town halls being set, so veterans can't speak what they really feel.